The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Met Radio, Met Media, or Metropolitan State University of Denver. This podcast may include discussions of sensitive or potentially triggering topics. This podcast may contain discussions of mature or sensitive topics that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hi guys, my name is Levette and I'm here with Poli-Pop Talk. And I'm here with a special guest, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Captain Adam DeRito. I am a paratrooper, an oil and gas worker, a farmer, and a substitute teacher living in Colorado. I moved out here in 2006 when I decided it was a good idea to go to the Air Force Academy. And now I'm an alumni of CU Denver as of class of 2013.
And where did you move from?
So I moved from New Jersey. I was born in New York and grew up in New Jersey my entire kid life. And then I moved out here and have been out here my entire adult life, so 20 years.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. That's great. So if you would have to describe what you're running for, what
Sure.
you're doing here.
Yeah. So I am running for Congressional District 8 in Colorado, which is the most contentious district in the United States. It is what's going to determine the hold for the House. It's what's going to determine if we have a future for us, for our generation. And I have worked in D.C. for over 15 years trying to pass legislation for veterans and sexual assault retaliation reform. And then you get to a point where you realize if these people aren't going to do their job, no matter how much you fly out to D.C., no matter how many meetings you go to, then it's up to us to make that difference, and I decided to step into the arena.
Awesome. And I tend to ask people what their political party is, so if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure, I'm a Republican.
You're a Republican.
Yep.
Are you a lifelong Republican?
No, absolutely not. So this is funny. So when I was a kid in Jersey, I grew up as a Blue Dog Democrat, right off the bat. Then I lost complete faith in the system. Especially during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. I mean, you got to keep in mind, I'm a 9/11 kid, right? So I lost family in 9/11. I saw the towers go down. That's one of the reasons I joined the military in 2006. So I became a libertarian from 2010 to about 2016. And then when I started my lawsuits against the federal government, unfortunately, you have to pick a side.
Yeah.
And just because I'm a Catholic, so I do lean on more conservative values, but I'm a common sense conservative. I decided to switch to the Republican Party, and I've been a Republican since 2017.
What does libertarian mean?
So libertarian is absolute freedom of everything. And I think I was very disillusioned in my 20s. I don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to do the government.
Right.
I want everyone should be able to do drugs and do whatever you want. And it sounds like a good idea when you're in your 20s. And believe me, I was all about that. And I was working on drilling rigs, and all we did was want to make money and leave the government alone. But then you realize, well, why do my taxes keep going up? And why are all these things being taken away from me? And why are we having these insane laws passed? And then, unfortunately, because the libertarians have absolutely no hold on the government in any aspect whatsoever, you have to pick a side that leans at least more with your values in order to make those changes, and that's why I did that.
I love to hear you say that because I discuss a lot about independent voters these days, and I hate to say it, but it is honestly, I don't really hate to say it, I say it all the time, but it's a two-party system, right?
It is.
So you kind of have to pick and choose because if you're going to make your own third party, the success rate of that is just not likely, right?
No, I mean, unless you're Bernie Sanders or Thomas Massey, it's not going to happen, and they're very one-offs. They're one-offs, and even then, they still have to pick a party they align with.
That's the thing, yeah. And even when Bernie did, he still was too off the rails for the Democratic Party.
Correct.
They still didn't pick him to be the nominee.
Correct.
So when it comes to CD8, you are running against incumbent Gabe Evans.
Correct.
So CD8 is actually my congressional district.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about this because I've talked to a former congressional candidate that was on the Democratic side, but they dropped out of the race. So this is really getting to the point that we're already the people who are running.
Yep.
So what do you think makes you different from?
Because I'm one of them. And this is the thing. I've lived in this district my entire oil field career. So I moved up here from the Springs and then Parker in 2012. So pretty much when I got put into my situation with the Air Force Academy where I had to repay all this debt and they were coming after me for reporting sexual assault and harassment, I had to make a lot of money really quick. I had no idea what I was doing. I was going to school here trying to finish off a second degree in psychology, and I literally walked into the recruiter's office down the hallway, which I don't know if it's still there right now, and I was just like, what do I have to do to get back in? And it was 2012 at the time, so I was going to school full-time, and I was trying to figure this out full-time in the oil field. So, hey, can you swing a hammer? Hey, can you wear a hard hat? I'm like, yeah, it sounds like the military. Really bad conditions with a bunch of dudes in the middle of nowhere. Sounds like I can do that. So I started making enough money, and then I was able to hire lawyers and attorneys to start fighting this federal court case against the Department of Defense. And then when I made enough money to do that, I almost joined the French Foreign Legion. So it got so bad by 2015 where they were garnishing all my wages and destroying my life to try to silence me. I was contemplating changing my passport, hopping the border of Canada, and getting on a boat and going to France and joining the French Foreign Legion and disappearing. But if anyone knows the history of the French Foreign Legion, if you do that, you can never talk to your family ever again because they change your name and all this other stuff. So I said, let me give it one more shot. So I go into every single recruiting office and they're like, yeah, you're that guy that was on the news trying to take down the academy. There's no way we're letting you back in. Even though I had a general discharge under honorable conditions, like I didn't do anything criminal, like it wasn't bad. So I go into the National Guard's office, and at the time, Governor Hickenlooper was in charge. And they're like, you're that guy that was on Denver 7, right? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, it's kind of weird, but we've been waiting for you to come into this office. So this old master sergeant pulls out this book and it's like Harry Potter, opens it up, dust flies off of it. It's like, there's a rule in here that states that the commander-in-chief of the National Guard is the governor, and he can override your federal discharge. So I was able to get back in. We had a phone call at the governor's office, and I had 3 conditions to get back in the military. It was, 1, you have to go into special forces. 2, you can only go in as an E4. Now keep in mind, I already had a degree finished at this point. I had finished my master's in 2015 at this point here as well. And I was making 6 figures a year. So going in as an E4, making like $22,000 a year is insanity, right?
What's an E4?
Specialist. So it's a rank in the Army.
Perfect.
And then after that, they said you have to recomplete basic training. So I'm like, all right. So I've been to the Air Force, I've been to the Marine Corps Officer Candidate School, and now I'm going to go back into the Army at 27 years old as a lower enlisted, junior enlisted person. So I go back into the Army. Everything goes great. And like 2 years later after the fact, they were just like, hey, you can go fly again. So I go to apply to be an Apache pilot out of Utah. And then I come to find out that my mental health records were falsified by the Air Force. And come to find out, all those cases that I had reported when I was working as an undercover informant at the academy, they were going to court-martial at the time. And the reason they were able to dismiss all my testimony was because they said I was crazy. So all those kids who raped and sexually assaulted all those women got away with it and are currently commissioned officers in the United States military today. And then that was like, my lawyers were like, we figured it out. They falsified your health records. This is a HIPAA violation. These are actual laws that they violated. Mm-hmm. So this is something we can get them on. So that's when I filed my lawsuit and everything else. But I mean, that's kind of how it started. And now I'm here trying to pass laws in the Department of Defense and lobbying and going to Congress and doing all these things and doing everything we're supposed to do as American citizens, right? Like holding our representatives accountable. So this is why I say I'm bold, proven, and principled, right? It is extremely scary and terrifying going against the federal government. And I've done it for over 10 years and I'm not afraid of them. Proven, I've done it. I won my case. At the end of the day, like I won it. And I am now a captain in the United States Army Reserve. I serve in civil affairs. And principled, I don't back down on what I say I'm going to do. If it's immoral or unethical, I won't do it. I'm not bought out by special interest groups. I'm not bought out by super PACs like the incumbent I'm running against. I will always do the right thing for the constituents that live in my district because I am one of them. Like I grew up with these people. I'm the minority in my job. I still work in oil and gas, and I'm the Irish Catholic white guy, and I work with 80% Hispanics. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? Like it's just I've worked with these people, and I feel their pain, and I see what their families are suffering through, and I see all the things that are doing to crush them. And these kids have no future in this district, and that's what I'm fighting for, and that's why I'm different than anyone else who's running.
That is wonderful. But I do have a couple questions because you're throwing me off, right? You're Republican.
Yep.
But the way you sounds way more progressive than I would have thought you would sound.
So I think what you could say that is I'm just an America First candidate, right? Yeah, I'm
actual America First.
Actually America First.
Okay.
And I can speak on that because I've deployed overseas. I've been to plenty of third world countries. I have lived with the poorest people in the world, building houses and latrines and traveling around the world with NGOs. And I see how amazing America is. And I think it's so hard for people who've never been outside of Colorado, never mind outside the United States, never mind to an actual third world country like Nepal or Peru or the Middle East, which is a whole different ballgame, where you don't realize how good we have it here. I mean, every time I come back every year, because I go on these mission trips or whatever every year, I like salute my toilet every time I come home because as I have running, flushing water in my house. And so I wouldn't say necessarily I'm progressive, but I would just say I'm actually standing on the principles of what the party was created on, and we've lost so much of that over the last 10 years.
Right. And when it comes to Republican Party, I remember when I learned what the Republican Party was, it was low government, like very minimal government, kind of just working people.
Fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
American values.
Exactly.
Apple pie and baseball. Like,
yeah,
you
family,
would hope so.
Yeah, all that, yeah. Exactly. That's what I learned they were. And so when it comes to this time that we're in, I've been very confused, right? So you're low government, and I'm like, but yet you have all these federal forces getting sent places. And it's just kind of odd, right? It's like they took a complete different turn. And so you're trying to kind of get the Republican Party back to where it was, or are you trying to change where it's supposed to be?
Where it's supposed to be. Okay. And that requires drastic change because unfortunately, I mean, this is, like I said, I'm a GWAT kid, global war on terror kid, right? And I saw what happened when the people who are currently in charge and people who are currently running for office. You sent me to war for 20 years and killed 6 of my friends, and you're trying to tell me that your decision-making process is still effective for me to reelect you. I disagree, and you all should be fired. And that's why I'm running, is because our generation, and I'm an older millennial, like I'm 38, but like I don't care about the people who are never going to change their mind. They're always going to vote hardcore MAGA or hardcore left, right? You have that 20% differential. I'm here for the middle. I'm here for the unaffiliated. I'm here for the reasonable leaning liberals and the reasonable leaning conservatives. Because at the end of the day, most Americans just want to be left alone, go to work, get a paycheck, and leave everybody alone.
I think on average, most Americans do fall in the middle, but we've been in such like polarized state that you really have to like choose one because you're either a radical left or you're either a MAGA.
Yeah, and here's the thing on that. I work in psychological operations, so like literally we do this overseas all the time. We just can't do drone strikes on Americans. It's not frowned upon.
Right.
But for the most part, it's like I tell people don't pay attention to mainstream media at all. It's all a lie. It's not effective at all. And I'll give you one example of this.
As a journalist, I'm like, well, okay, hold up.
Well, no, I will tell you. No, you're a journalist for progressive new media, for people that actually listen to things that are being talked about.
Right.
Right? This isn't MSNBC. This isn't CNN. This isn't Fox News.
That's true.
I will tell you they do things very differently. And I'll give you an example of this, of how I've realized what was behind the curtain. So we were overseas. I was deployed to the Middle East. I was an intelligence analyst working in special operations and HIMARS, which are the rocket systems. Something really bad happened overseas. I can't tell you exactly what it was, but it was pretty much like, this is going to be all over the news. We're all going to get questioned on this, right? And then ironically, we go to the chow hall, we get out of the secured information facility, and we go sit down, and ironically, all over the news, Roe v. Wade just got overturned within 30 minutes, and it was leaked. And it's never been leaked before. Like, those Supreme Court decisions never get leaked. Then you realize, oh, this was in order to distract the Americans from what was going on in this specific area of the world, and they're not going to pay attention to it. And now,
super excited that you brought this up because this happened at the beginning of the year very blatantly and obviously, right? So I talked about this in other podcasts, and you talked about being standing up against sexual assault cases. And
it's literally what I built my political career on.
Exactly. So now, it's especially during this time with everything going on, you don't even have to say it. You know what it is.
Yep.
So with that going on, I knew that what happened in Venezuela was exactly that. It was a distraction. Immediately. The deadline was coming up for the explanations of the redaction, for the actual list to be constructed and given to the American people. Instead, let's just go steal Venezuela's president.
Well, and here's the thing. It was a perfectly executed operation. I worked with a lot of those units. I know what 160th SOAR and stuff is. And it just was so pro-America, and for the uninformed voter, and for the uninformed American who only just sees cool American guns going off and things like that, they're completely distracted by what's going on. Right? I mean, I think it's insanity that we haven't had a full accountability for the Epstein list. That's embarrassing for this country. And to be fair, it's not just this administration, it's previous administrations that go back probably when I was your age. You know what I mean? And it's just there's always something. So what I always tell Americans is that if you see something big and flashy in the news, I promise you there's something else going on behind the scenes that you don't know about.
Exactly. There was, I think, 13,000 more documents, and they were not redacted very well. There was pictures of the victims that weren't redacted. There was personal information of victims that haven't been already brought to light that were exposed. And obviously they forgot a very key person to redact in a lot of those. And I just think when you see all those things and when you see Republicans in Congress right now kind of just brushing it under the rug, how do you think you can fight against that?
One, you have to elect me to get me in the system first. And then once I get in, I'm bringing all my friends with me too. So this is the thing. I am running an extremely difficult race because I'm so-called an unknown in the political sphere, right? But the thing is that my generation is sick and tired of it, but we're old enough that we can run for office. And what I tell people is that you have two choices in this life. You could be a resident or you can be a citizen. You could be a resident. You can go to school and you can watch the news and you can podcast. You can complain on the internet all day and get nothing done. Or you can be a citizen. And that requires you to sacrifice your time, money, and treasure in order to actually change the system. Yeah, you're going to have to go to those really boring 6:30 a.m. pancake breakfasts on a Wednesday in order to make change because of these people who've been running our government for the last 30 years, right? You are going to have to run for office. you're going to have to be a precinct committee person or a district captain with whatever party you want to be. If you don't do that, it is your fault.
Exactly.
It is your fault, and that's why we're failing. So the only way to get people elected like me is if people like you become my delegate. If people like in this school say, you know what, we're going to give this DeRito guy a chance, and we're going to let him go serve, and then he's going to get punched in the face and shot at every day. I'll be the plate carrier for this. And then after I prove that I can at least stand my ground for about a year, then I start endorsing and bringing in all the other people that feel like me, because we have to break the system if we want to change it. And this is the only way to do it, is by force, by with and through.
I say that all the time, that people who, I literally said it in my last podcast, that if people who are complaining about what's going on in this country are the most vocal, they're yelling all the time, but they're not doing anything, they're not showing up to the polls, they're not volunteering, they're not being precinct organizers, they're not showing up to party meetings like, hey, do I belong here? Like, do I like you guys? And not doing the work, but they're so willing to be the first ones to complain or the first ones to be impacted is what gets me.
They don't care about your TikTok videos. They care about if you show up and take their position as a voting delegate, that's actually going to change who gets put on the ballot. That matters. You can scream and cry all you want on the internet. They don't care. They don't care about you. I'm running because they didn't care about me. And if I'm the guy that's going to D.C. with the pre-written bills, with all these advocacy groups and doing all the hard work, and they're still telling me no, then that means I have to take that position in order to make that change.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because just the fact that you can call it out and just like call a spade, you know? And I just really appreciate that. When it comes to your key issues, I know we kind of talked about it, but I want to kind of talk about affordability, because I feel like that's something every American, no matter what side you fall on or no matter what you think, you're feeling the affordability issue. And what do you think of how they're kind of trying to say that the affordability issue isn't real?
It's not real for them, because they bought their house in the 90s and their house is worth over $2 million and they bought it for $100,000 in 1992. So for them, it's not an issue, and they don't care. They have their retirement, they have their Medicare and their Medicaid and their Social Security. You don't.
Exactly.
You're going to go buy a house here for $750,000 for 1,400 square feet? You're going to go raise a family with that? You're going to go get married? No, you're not. So because these people who are so disenfranchised with the system because they've run it for 30 years and they're fine and they're set, if I take away all their stuff, I bet they'll change their mind. And now we're at a position where I'm just very lucky. I got into the oil and gas industry and I have a very good paying job. And even that's not enough. I'm still unmarried without children, right? Because I can't afford to raise kids. So this is an issue that matters to me. And I see people like you suffering, and I see people in the school like, I'm going to finish this degree. I'm going to put myself on $100,000 worth of debt. And even at the end of the day, I'm still not making enough money to do anything in my life. And that needs to change. And that's part of my first point of performance. So I'm in the airborne, so we call them points of performance. So my first point of performance is bold governance. And bold governance is affordability, actually passing single issue spending bills, getting to the issues of, ending illegal immigration. And I know people, it's a big contentious issue with ICE and everything now. But here's the thing. Do you know why we have no money?
No, but I know why we don't.
Let's just use Colorado as an example, okay? We're in $1.8 billion worth of debt in this state alone. $560 million of that is spent on non-American citizens, right? So you want your health care, which I'm all for that. Like, we can talk about health care all day, but like the reason why the state can't fund your health care is because you're giving it to people that are here illegally. So if we cut off that source of funding, now we have money for Americans.
So when you say giving it to people who are here illegally, I hear that a lot when it comes to like, oh, well, we're cutting off healthcare for the illegal immigrants. Like that's why the government got paused or got shut down for that time.
Yeah, they fight about it all every 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's because of that. But realistically, there's a small portion of like youth immigrants that actually qualify for those. So there's a lot of rules that they don't benefit from those resources all the time, but they do pay taxes and pay into them.
If you're doing it the right way, I have no problem with it.
Okay, right. But here's the thing. If you're not doing it the right way, I guess, how would you even get a hold of those funds, right? Like, illegal immigrants don't
NGOs.
get those.
Oh, no, they do it through NGOs. They do it through non-government organizations, right? I'll give you a perfect example of how this works. So I work in the oil and gas industry, right?
I'm glad you have an answer for me, because everyone's just like, oh, well, what do you mean they don't get those like benefits? But you have an answer.
Yeah, so here's how they do this. And this is, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but it's fine. I don't care. So I work at the refinery right off the road, the only oil and gas refinery in the state, Suncor, right? And nothing I say represents Suncor or the United States military. I always have to give that disclaimer, right? But like, they'll give us ridiculous fines every year for things that don't exist. For example, they'll fine us $15 million for saying we exceeded environmental exceedances. Even those environmental exceedances are made up. Like, we still meet EPA standards for health and everything. But what they do is they add another percentage on top of that, which is unrealistic. And then the company will pay that fine to continue operating. Then they take that money and they put it into the general slush fund, and that general slush fund gets divvied out to the NGOs, and then most of that money gets divvied out to the Democratic Party for campaign donations. And I've traced all this stuff, and then that money gets dissipated to the NGOs and the churches, which help house the illegal immigrants and everything else. So that's how they hide it. They do it through 3 to 4 levels of dispersion, so normal Americans don't even realize it's happening. And that's what they're doing, which is also why one of the primary things they went after was these NGO systems in the federal government, right? So if you don't go after the source of corruption, and especially since most Americans aren't aware that they decipher which NGOs those go to and which organizations those go to, it's never going to change. And that's why it needs to change.
Right. I don't see a lot of immigrants using that to their advantage, unfortunately.
Well, you don't see it, but I see it up where I live. You know what I mean? So
Where do you live?
So I live in LaSalle, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you got to understand, District 8 is...
Okay, I live in Evans.
Oh, so you're like 20 minutes right to the west
I'm right
of me.
there, yeah.
Let's grab coffee sometime.
Okay, bet.
So, no, and here's the thing is like, I love the immigrants that come here and are doing things the right way because our farming and ranching industry can't exist without them.
What does the right way mean to you?
So the right way means, hey, I'm not an American citizen, right? But I'm going to file my seasonal work visa. And every 6 months I go back to whatever country I came from, but then I come back here to work. Now, the biggest issue, the only way I'm going to acquiesce to this is that, hey, you filed your paperwork. You did the right thing. But the reason why you're considered illegal currently is because your paperwork didn't get processed on time by the federal government.
Right.
Right? So I want to bring more federal resources in. This is that bold governance aspect, right? I want to fully staff the federal government. I want to fully staff the immigration judges. I want to fully staff the Department of Homeland Security in order to make sure that these are processed on time so people are doing it the right way. So that way they're not afraid of like, I filed my paperwork, you guys just didn't get back to me, now I have to go to jail.
Exactly. Or get deported.
There's a big difference with that other than the people that have been here for 10, 20 years, who have skirted the system entirely, who are still gaining benefits, right? They're taking your money. And another thing, I'm like, you want to become a citizen that fast? I have a great solution for you. You can go right down the stairs and join the United States Army. And for 2 to 3 years, you get your full citizenship.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, too, because I've seen people, literal veterans of the United States Army, be deported in this administration.
So have I.
Yeah, and that's kind of
well,
crazy.
there's a catch-all to that. One of them was because he did get convicted of shooting somebody. So he was considered a violent felon. So, but he was still an American citizen, right? And to be fair, the Army screwed up his paperwork, right? They didn't fully process everything, and that's on them. In that case, I actually fully advocated for that guy. I was actually fighting from Congress with multiple members to have him stay here. Yeah. But because the Army screwed up, and this is the accountability part, right? This is why I want to fix. I've been trying to fix the Department of Defense /War for years now, but it's such a massive bureaucracy. Yeah. Unless you start firing these admirals and generals at the top and replace them with people who actually want to do the right thing, it's never going to change. But the problem is these guys have been holdovers for several administrations. Like, I worked for Bush, Obama, Trump 1, Biden 1, and now Trump 2. It's all the same. It's just different characters. Like, do you know what I mean?
Fonts, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that the military failed him to not give him his full citizenship. And that's why he was on this like hanging status and then he shot somebody and he had PTSD and all this other stuff. And then they used that as like, well, you don't technically have your citizenship because we forgot to process your paperwork and now you're considered a violent felon and now we're going to deport you.
Well, I'm glad that when you're talking about immigration, you're not talking about like, oh yeah, so you are saying, you talked about how they get the services, and I understand that you said NGOs?
Yeah, non-government organizations.
Yeah. So you said NGOs, and the fun thing about this podcast is that I like kind of try to fact check everything and put it on the screen. Yeah, we'll see where you're getting. This is wonderful. We'll see where this information is coming from.
All you have to do is go to Tracer, right? And then you go to the FEC filings and you look at where all the money is going to between these parties and their candidates.
Yeah, and that's where you could see like how much like stocks, right, that people are trading and stuff.
That's not stocks. That's individual companies and NGOs and PACs, super PACs that are donating to these candidates, and then you backtrace from there. What is this PAC organized from? Oh, it's from like blah 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 blah.
Right.
I'm an intelligence analyst, so I'm kind of a dork.
That's amazing.
And if you always want to find the bad guys, follow the money. That's all you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So you said that you're not backed by super PAC. So what does your campaign look like right now?
It's funded by people like you. I mean, and funded by myself. And this is the big thing I'm running against Gabe Evans on. He's got $4 million. I don't. Right? And this is how they win. This is how they crush us. This is how they silence us every single time. Yeah. If you look at all his donors, it's bought up by the sugar lobby, pharmaceutical companies, and everything like that. I'm not that person. Right? I want to be funded by real Americans that want real change, and because you put your faith and trust in me, because you want me to fight for you, and I'm actually going to do it, and I have a track record of doing that.
Yeah. And sorry, I want to go back to the immigration the right way. You had mentioned the story that I heard from someone, and so they did try. You know how when somebody gets their American citizenship and they can come here, and then you can apply for your family member to also get it, and do you know like how long that process is?
It depends. I mean, you can get it. It depends on what country you're from.
Okay.
Honestly, let's just be honest. Like if you're coming from South Africa, you're going to get your thing processed way faster.
Right.
But you're coming from some third world countries like Somalia, Morocco, India, things like that. Like it's going to take a lot longer because the problem with the vetting sources is it takes so long to vet people. Because when they really vet people, and I know this because I have a top secret security clearance, you have to go back through each one of these people's memories and details and everything else. And problem is some of these countries don't have that access to that information. Yeah. So it gets delayed or denied. And that could take years. Like if you have a fake birth certificate from another country because your government is a non-functioning entity and you can't just like go get your driver's license in like, Sudan, then you're probably not going to get your process for years because then they have to take extra time and extra money and extra agents to go investigate your actual background and do DNA tests to even figure out if you are the person you say you are. And that's why that process takes so long for some of these people.
So you're wanting to make that process go faster, but still keep
increasing
that process.
Increasing resources for our immigration. And also another bill that I know Thomas Massey's talked about it a lot too, is actually allowing our embassies to process visa applications on site in country. Right? That's something that it would really help the immigration process. So instead of them all crowding the border or crowding border stations, you can actually start the process, while you're living at home in your home country or whatever it is, no matter where it is, and do it through the embassy, but staffing those embassies up so they can actually have more resources to do that.
So what do you think about what's been going on in Minnesota?
Oh, man, I have a lot to say about Minnesota. So one, a lot of this, and this is something we trained for in the Army for a long time. This is exactly what I saw when I was in the Middle East. Okay, you have paid agitators from certain groups. When I was in the Middle East, we called them Iranian-aligned militant groups. So we have like 20 different factions. They all work for the government of Iran, but they're all different religious groups and everything else. And what they do is they swarm U.S. forces. They'll swarm convoys and everything else to distract things. Now, overseas, it's a little bit more dangerous. Sometimes they have IEDs, sometimes they have rocket launchers and machine guns, and we respond appropriately, right? The problem is that I have seen this time and time again. You can go all the way back to the Black Lives Matter protests and everything else. They did the same exact stuff. You can go to Ferguson, Missouri, right? The problem is there is a significant amount of fraud being committed by that specific migrant group, the Somalis. It's been proven. And that's just one area in one state. That's not including the entire country. Go to California and Texas and see how bad it is too, right? So when they are taking tens, if not hundreds of millions of American taxpayer dollars, right, to have fake daycare centers and fake businesses, and no one's keeping anybody accountable for that. Why are you mad that we're not? If an American said, okay, let's put it this way: if it was 20 Italians, and they happen to be the Italian mob in New York, and they were doing this, would you not want them prosecuted? Right. Just because they're Somali immigrants doesn't mean that they're not committing crimes.
Right. So when you say that fraud, fraud is terrible. Like, you should never commit fraud. But then we have a party and an administration that's hard on crime. They want to say that they're hard on fraud and all this stuff, and they want to act like it's not a race issue or it's not an immigration thing, like based on their immigration status or based on who these people actually like are, what they look like. They want to make it as if they care about fraud so much. But need I remind you, 34 counts of felony fraud is sitting in the White House right now.
Sure. And this is like I said, now you're just doing apples and oranges because Donald Trump is not the Somali immigrants.
Right. But I'm just saying, I think everybody wants to say and it's not necessarily like that, but everyone wants to say they're hard on crime or fraud. But then when it comes to immigrants doing it, then yes, you're hard on it. But when it comes to voting in an election, you kind of, not you, but people overlook it.
Let's just put it this way. Did Donald Trump go to court?
Yes.
And he got arrested?
He got convicted.
Right. So should not we do that to all the other ones too?
Exactly. So that's what
arrest
I'm saying.
them and process them.
And then treat them the same.
But then Donald Trump is also an American citizen, and these people are not. And that's a differentiation.
That's true. But these people aren't convicted, right? That's also a differentiation.
Yeah, but also we can't convict them and then hold them accountable to the American justice system if you're not an American citizen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't take a Somali immigrant who doesn't have a visa here, arrest him and throw him in jail in an American prison system. You can't do that. Right?
You can until their due process is over, and then you get to.
Or we just deport them.
Right.
How much money do you want to spend in the court system on millions of people? And this is
process.
Well, this is the problem though, is that you still under U.S. Code Title 10, Section 8, you could still deport these people and have them processed back into their other country and have them deal with it, which is what they did in El Salvador. I'm not saying you don't want to go to El Salvador. It's not a fun place to be. But the thing is, do you know why these Somali immigrants were given temporary protected status?
No, but I want to hear about it because I remember just a quick story. So when I was in middle school, we had a lot of Somali immigrants come or refugees at the time. And so
Did you ever wonder why?
I never knew why. I never knew what was happening. I knew like their country, that disconnect because you're so young, you don't really know what's happening, but you see it happening. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was like just a reason they had to come here, and you kind of just are like, well, they needed like a better life, so then that's kind of how I seen it, right? I was young.
But why were we able to process so many of them over the last 2 decades?
Were we able to process them?
Yeah, do you know why?
Why?
Okay, so do you remember the whole Black Hawk Down incident? You were probably even born yet, but in 1991, we were doing a famine relief thing under Farah Aidid. He was the terrorist group that was killing all the local Somalians. He completely overthrew Mogadishu. So we sent in U.S. Special Forces and operations, killed 18 of our service members. There's a whole movie on it if you haven't seen it, Black Hawk Down. And after that, because the country was literally collapsing in real time, from millions of people were dying from famine and starvation, and the American people felt bad about that. We want to get these people out of this country and give them a new life. So the Clinton administration at the time gave them temporary protected status, and Greeley, Colorado was designated as one of the first immigration places in the United States to put these people, because back in the early 90s, it was a middle of nowhere cow town, and no one cares if we drop X amount of thousands of people out here because no one's going to do anything.
Yeah, back
right?
Then.
And also, so was Dearborn, Michigan. So was Minnesota. So was all these other places, right? These places where we're going to send these people and we're just going to let them go and then whatever. But no one followed up on it. No one really knew what was going on. Most of their immigration things weren't processed because, like I said, it's extremely hard to find out who these people are when your functioning government in Somalia can't even give you a birth certificate because their government doesn't exist.
Right.
So how are you going to vet somebody if you don't know who they are?
Exactly. I have a question. So you're so smart. I have a question. So I remember seeing them. So I'm Chicana, right? So I have Mexican roots. That's where I'm from, whatever. So when I think of that, I think that everyone kind of says immigrants get this, they get all these services, they get this or that. But we were the first ones in the on the chopping block, right? The Mexicans they're not sending their remember that they're not sending their best people, they're sending rapists.
Sure.
That comment. So Mexico was kind of the first, or Mexican immigrants were the first ones to kind of be talked about. And then it's been evolving, but they keep that same narrative or they keep that same idea that, immigrants are getting all these services and getting all these things handed to them. And when I think about that, the only time I can relate to that is when I think back to seeing a lot of Somali immigrants in middle school families have an apartment and a car and all these things.
Mm-hmm. Right, and they're also the Mexicans were not filling up suitcases full of cash and flying them back to Mogadishu, right?
But yeah, I
you
feel
know why?
It was such an attacked
you know why though? You know why it was easier to deport the Mexican immigrants? Because you have a functioning government. Mexico has a government, even though it's mostly run by cartels, and it's way easier to push you across the border on a bus than it is to fly you on a Boeing 777 over to Somalia to an airport that can't even land a plane safely without it getting shot at, right? So that's the difference. It was easier to just deport the so-called illegal Mexicans because there's a process and a relationship between our governments. You can't pick up the phone and call the president of Somalia. It's not a thing, right? So, and this is the problem is that I am all for Mexican immigration. Like I said, I work with mostly Mexicans. I am the minority in my job. Mm-hmm. But I even see they all have to earn their legal status. So I'm also in a union, right? Which is, oh my God, you're a Republican in a union? Oh my God, this is unfathomable. No, and this is actually why I'm very pro-union. This is something I can reach across the aisle on that no one else can in this race. I am an America First conservative that works in a union. One, because I lost all of my previous jobs. Drilling, fracking, pipeline production, and wireline. All those jobs closed down and moved out of the state due to overregulation, and the state has lost tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue from doing that, which is why we're in so much debt. So the only safe job I could get was union. So I don't know if you know this, but all critical infrastructure, mostly in the United States, whether it's your police departments, fire departments, electricity grid, oil refineries, and power plants, that's all union. And the reason that is because you want to give high-paying wages with good benefits to people who want to stay in this job for a long period of time. You don't want turnover every 2 weeks and something that's going to shut off your power grid, right? So there's an incentive. And the good thing about unions is that they can only hire American citizens, right? So union jobs that are good-paying jobs that provide good benefits also protect the American worker. Because what I see a lot of immigrants, they come in and they'll pay these guys $5 an hour. It's human slavery. Basically, if you're supporting this illegal immigration stuff, you're supporting human slavery. Well, I don't want to stock the grocery store shelves, and I don't want to clean hotel rooms. And I'm like, well, someone's going to have to do it. And these people are being abused and used. Look at the rates of human trafficking and drug trafficking in this District 8. Highway 85 is ridiculous. Go up 85 in Evans, go right to the west side of that, all those abandoned hotels. It's full of child sex trafficking. And Weld County Sheriff and Evans Police Department, they can't do anything about it because we have a law in the state that says the feds can't work with the local law enforcement. So kids are getting raped, people are getting murdered, drugs are getting trafficked in the state, and we're not allowed to stop it because some people who have no idea what they're doing in the state capitol thought that was a good idea. And you're afraid to go to an immigration service or file your paperwork because if you do, you're going to get arrested anyway.
Well, we don't have to. Well, funny you bring that up just because it made me mention it. On the ballot this year, there's. I forgot what it's called. I don't know if it's a proposition or what it is, but specifically, but there's something on the ballot, and it says that it basically allows for
federal law enforcement
to work with local law.
So they're trying to override that law they passed previously, right? Because they passed a law. The Senate passed a law saying that local law enforcement cannot work with federal law enforcement.
Yeah. So.
Do you know President Obama deported like 5 times the amount of people that President Trump did?
I was talking with my friend this morning, and I do know that. And I think that the reason why it's so different from what he did and what we're seeing now is because of the shamelessness that we're seeing, like it being executed under.
Yes
now.
And no, but under Obama, there was no law that saying the feds couldn't work with local law enforcement.
So it was a lot easier, and it didn't have to go to these extents, is what you're saying.
Exactly. The reason why you didn't see these massive riots and everything back then was because local law enforcement, who has normally a great relationship with the community they work in because they live there too, were allowed to work hand in hand with the Department of Homeland Security to find the criminals, the rapists, the drug dealers, the bad people. Those are the people we don't want here, right? Now, if you're an illegal immigrant that's purposely skirting the system and you've done like, Gabe Evans likes to say, I want to deport criminals, not grandmas, or gangsters, not grandmas. I sat there and went, well, if grandma's been here for 40 years and has purposely not become an American citizen on purpose, who has she been taking advantage of?
Doesn't it cost money to do that stuff?
Yeah. Of course, everything costs money.
Right.
Nothing's free in this country.
So if you're coming from a country where you're already poor and you're being told you can only get to this country and be accepted, like if you do it the right way, but it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. So even though you are having a hard time surviving where you're at, what's the solution there, right? You're poor here. So, you have to have money to come here and still be poor here,
how
too.
How bad do you want to be an American citizen?
Well,
do you want to assimilate and become an American citizen and raise your right hand and say the Pledge of Allegiance and understand the Constitution? Or do you just want to take advantage of the American taxpayer, bring your culture here and never change and continue to live? And the one good example, did you ever see the movie Saving Private Ryan?
No.
The World War, man, you kids gotta watch all these.
Watch
all these
movies.
Yeah, look at this lady over here. Okay, look. So there's a really critical, and I've been in Normandy last year. I'm going again this year. There's a scene at the end of the movie where Captain Miller gets shot on the bridge by the Nazis, right? And he's dying. They spent the whole time, and they're going out trying to find this guy named Private Ryan because his brother was killed, and Department of Defense says because if you have no surviving siblings, you have to go home because we don't want to kill all your family members, right? And Private Ryan runs up to Captain Miller, and the one thing Captain Miller says to him, earn this. He's going to die, but he knows that, and horrific conditions in World War II. And he said, don't let this be for nothing, basically. Make sure that we died for a reason. And when you go home, make sure you earn this, right? And that's what I tell over people. I'm like, hey, I know you came here illegally, and I know you've been skirting the system, but being an American, if you want to be a citizen, it requires to give you your sacred honor, right? Your time and your treasure. If you're not willing to give up those things to earn your citizenship and suffer and sacrifice, like so tens of thousands, millions of Americans have paid that price over the years, then you don't deserve the rights that are entitled by the Constitution, because every American citizen has to fight for it, whether that's you taking your kids to work or taking your kids to school, whether that's you working your job and paying your taxes, showing up to a local committee meeting, or joining the U.S. military. You have to earn it. It can't just be given to you. I mean, look at all these people that have taken advantage of the American system, and they refuse to assimilate to American culture, which is what's going on in Michigan and Minnesota, right? Is that these people don't want to be Americans. They just want to take all your money and defraud you. But they're not like waving American flags outside their house.
But doesn't that sound like fear-mongering that we've been seeing this administration use to their benefit?
In what ways?
That's gotten us to this divisive.
What fear-mongering do you mean?
Like they're taking your money, like that kind of thing.
But I mean, they are.
Right. Well, I could say that the administration's taking your rights, right? But I'm not like.
What rights are they taking?
It sounds scary. Well, you should be able to practice your Second Amendment right without being shot in the street.
So you're talking about the second guy. No, let's talk about that.
There's also Fourth Amendment right and Fifth Amendment right. So you had said that you have to earn your rights, right? Mm-hmm. But the Constitution, flawed or not, does say all persons. It doesn't say all U.S. citizens or all citizens. It does say all persons.
But I bet you if you go up to any of those people staying in the street, they couldn't even tell you what those constitutional amendments were.
That's true. That's true. But a lot of Americans can't either, friend.
Correct, and that's our problem.
Isn't it?
And you better start learning the Constitution. Everyone here wants to be a lawyer. Everybody here thinks they have the greatest ideas. But like, for example, you have every right to carry a gun. Most of the time, I carry a gun. I am not carrying a gun on campus currently.
Right, federal, yeah.
But the thing is like, if you go out and you kick a police officer's car and you start scuffling with cops in the street and you start creating chaos, like, I can't tell you what's going to happen. Like, I don't recommend you go fight the MSU police department and then carry a gun and say, like, well, I have all these rights and you can't do this. And look, I think that second shooting was a very gray area, right? In my opinion, like, let's put it this way. I don't know if you know this. I was deployed to January 6th. Okay.
Oh, wait. Oh, that's amazing. January 6th was my whole reason.
Yeah. So within 48 hours, we were on ground. So I got there like the 8th or whatever it was. And we were given live ammo. We were deputized as sheriffs.
So you were, okay. Sorry. Let's clear this up. You were there as
the
in
contingent
what capacity?
Contingent response force. So I was part of the National Guard.
The following days.
Yeah.
Not that day.
Not that exact day.
Okay.
We were sent as an emergency contingency security force overnight in a C-130 fully loaded with ammo to go down there and basically shoot American citizens. That's what they said. They gave us live ammo and said, here you go. Now I told all my guys to put duct tape over their magazines and do not even think about it. We're not making the news. But the thing is like, that's what they told us to do.
And that's what I think they're telling federal immigration officers, that they have the right to do that as well.
I mean, and the thing is, you do. I mean, they deputized us. So the thing is like, okay, so we were told to go shoot a bunch of MAGA supporters. And then these guys were told to shoot a bunch of illegal immigrants who were fighting the feds, right? Like, this is, and to be fair, different administrations, right? That was the Biden administration that sent me out there, right? And gave us ammunition off of an aircraft and said to engage American citizens if they demonstrated any threat.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't see any threat. I will tell you that most of it was horseshoes and hand grenades when I was out there. And the biggest threat that I saw to me was a guy in a LGBTQ rainbow Speedo and inline rollerblades with an LGBTQ flag listening to Mariah Carey's Fantasy album going down 1600, right, which is hilarious. I was escorting a staffer back to her car for security, and I'm like, this is what we're afraid of? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm walking around with an M4 rifle, fully masked up, full plate carriers, full all this other stuff. I'm not threatened by Mariah Carey. I don't know who else is, but I mean, come on.
That's what they tried to do in Portland, right? So that's why you've seen this, like, all the inflatable suits. They're like trying to just show how ridiculous all this force and all these things were.
Now, one thing they should have done, which is like, look, if I was in charge of HSI, Homeland Security, or whatever, like, they should be given tasers.
You might get the chance because Christine.
I have no desire to go to the Department of Homeland Security. I deal with enough of the federal government. But here's the thing: it's like, the thing is, they're only armed with pepper spray and handguns, right? Now, most police officers also have tasers. That's normally their first line of force escalation. So pepper spray, first stop, then pepper spray, then taser, then you get shot.
That's what I always thought, that it was different levels. It wasn't just hop to shooting.
Well, federal agents operate under different requirements, right? But the thing is, they weren't given those assets, right? So I think the second shooting is very much in the gray area, like, and especially I think that police officer at the time, he disarmed him. And that's physically visible in the video. But what he messed up on, at least from what I've seen, I don't know all the evidence. I'm not an investigator.
No.
He didn't say vocally, I disarmed him, I disarmed him.
Exactly.
So
they thought he still had a gun.
And I also don't know where that negligent discharge came from. So there was a gunshot, whether it was from the guy pulling the handgun out and shooting or another agent shot or whatever it was. I will tell you, when you're in that kind of situation, right, and you hear a gunshot and you look down and see a holster's empty, you have 2 seconds to make a decision whether you're going home or whether he's going home. And I will tell you, especially as a trained military person, and cops train the same way, you're going to pick you every day.
Right.
Now, I think it's a tragic situation. I never think it should have escalated to that. But this is the environment we're currently living in, because Americans want to be so venomous and so toxic to each other that guy was so enraged that he bought himself a plane ticket from Colorado with his handgun to fly out to another state to protest. This is where we're at. It should never come to that.
He's not. His parents were from here.
But he's originally from here, though.
Originally, but
right?
He moved there. So it's like you moving here,
but it's
from
okay,
New Jersey.
Fair. But it's like...
He did have his concealed carry license as
sure,
well.
So do I. I have one too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, am I going to drive to a protest and with a handgun and then start scuffling with agents in the street? No, I'm probably going to stand on the corner, with my sign, fully armed. And I'll tell you, that's what happened when we were in there in D.C. We had a bunch of guys walking around with M4s and guns and stuff like that, and they were fully displayed, and we didn't figure they were a threat, and I didn't take my gun out. He didn't take his gun out. We had conversations, right? But, like, when you're starting to fight cops in the street, you are instigating the fog of war. Like, that's Clausewitz stuff. You're asking for a bad situation to happen. So I fully want every American to protest. If you think what's going on is wrong, you should definitely protest. Speak up. Write to your senators and your congressmen and everything else. But if you put yourself in a situation where you're going to put your life at risk, you are taking that into your own hands.
So I've been involved in activism for a while, like before I could vote. So, because I was just really intrigued by the whole idea of like that unity and that the whole idea that you can change like power in numbers, right?
You can.
Right.
And you should.
Yeah. So when you're talking about protesters, every time I talk about protesting, people are so quick to be like, yeah, but the unpeaceful protesters or rooters or rioters or whatever, the people who are breaking in the stores, I'm just like, okay, I get that. I totally understand that. When I am actively at a protest, I know I can like see around me and see who's breaking the law. I know what's like,
It's always bad actors in every group.
Exactly. There's always bad actors in every group, but people want to use the bad actors that we've seen in 2020 and the ones we've seen recently and be like, that's everyone. They all deserve to just shut up.
Man, you should join the Army, become a 35 Fox, because now you're understanding what psychological operations is all about, right? Is that the news media will selectively take one or two people, they will blanket code you as all of this when that's not the accurate truth of what's going on. Just like when I went to the deployment after January 6th, 99.9% of the people there were peaceful and doing the right thing.
That was honestly, if you were deployed after the date, January 6th, it was just performative.
All of it's performative.
All
protests are performative.
It took how many hours for the National Guard to be deployed to January 6th on that day? It took at least 4 to 5 hours of the day.
Which is actually really fast for us.
To at least be called, but then y'all didn't
the
get
Army's
there
very
yet.
slow at doing anything.
Well, no, that you guys weren't called until 4 or 5 hours in. That's what I'm saying. And then for your response, you're saying y'all are very slow, so y'all still took a while to get there, right? And it's like, I don't understand. That was the day when it was needed, and that's the only time recently I've seen when I would be like, yeah, National Guard should probably go and get our capital back. It hasn't been invaded since the 1800s, and now we're just
ironically, so I have a very funny connection with that. So my mom's side of the family, I can trace all the way back to like the 1430s. Okay. So I'm actually part of a bloodline that my family settled the United States off the Mayflower. I'm a direct descendant of Rebecca Nurse, who was actually first woman killed in the Salem witch trials, which is fascinating. And then if you follow every male from King Philip's War all the way down to the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and everything else, like that's where my bloodline comes from. So my great whatever grandfather was actually one of the Army officers in Ulysses S. Grant's Grand Old Army, who led the first insurrection of the Army against D.C. And that was the first time that the National Guard was called to defend D.C. And I'm the second person with a known lineage history that was deployed to the second insurrection in Washington, D.C. I just think there's like a funny history tidbit about my family.
That is kind of a weird connection. Yeah, that's odd. Wow.
Yep. So I was part of the only second deployment of the National Guard to defend D.C.
I hope we don't have a third.
You're not going to. The problem is they have so many resources in D.C. Us being sent out there was purely performative.
That's what I'm saying.
Purely performative.
Y'all should have been out there that day. The day from the beginning to the end of that day.
But then people get mad that you're deploying the Army to defend this. I sat there and, well, that's actually the National Guard's job primarily. But we also get activated on active duty deployments and deploy with active duty overseas, right? We kind of do everything. And I'm in the reserve now, so it's completely different. But, the whole posse comitatus thing, right? You can't deploy active military to, impose laws on U.S. citizens. Well, no, you can. They did it with the 101st Airborne Division during the Little Rock 5. Right.
But then it becomes like you should.
You shouldn't. But the thing is, if local police forces are completely overwhelmed by rioters, that's where the Insurrection Act comes from. This has happened before several times in our history. Unfortunately, most Americans don't even know what happened 20 minutes ago.
What do you think okay, so when you say rioters, I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like people say like marching down the street like they're rioters, or like they throw that term around. So what do you think rioter means?
Rioter, are you burning down buildings, flipping cars, and setting things on fire and destroying infrastructure? That's a rioter. Protester? Protest all you want, get arrested, whatever, go in, get yourself clean, get a cool picture of yourself for Facebook, and then get out and then fight for your rights. That's what being an American is all about. You should protest the government if they're doing wrong and incorrect things. You absolutely should. Exercise your right. But don't do it to a point where you're destroying infrastructure, burning down police stations, lighting cars on fire, destroying infrastructure, because you know who has to fix that? people like me and the unions who have to go out there and now fix everything that's broken.
And where's that money coming from?
From the U.S. taxpayer, right?
Exactly. So it's like, what are you doing?
Right. It's a circle of idiots, right? We just keep going around doing the same thing over and over again. And this is why I'm running for Congress, right? Is because we can change this. We can actually do this. But you have to put common sense people who live with us to actually represent us. You can't keep electing people that are so disaffected, not connected with their communities. Like you and I can go and have a coffee. You going to go have a coffee with Gabe Evans? Probably not.
I probably can't even get a hold of him.
Right. Or Manny Rootnow or Evan Munsing or Sharon Bird. I guarantee you not. Well, the thing is, I've talked to Manny. I went to several of his things because I was trying to get him to co-sign onto my bill when I went to D.C., which he also didn't do. So the thing is, I've reached across the aisle with these people numerous times, but he's also a state representative. And sometimes they just don't care. And the problem is none of those people who are running in District 8 work in the industries that run District 8. Ever. How do you know what's going on if you don't work with these people? If you don't hang out with them, if you don't grab lunch with them, if you don't, the farmers and the ranchers and the oil and gas workers and everything else. If you don't know what these people do, how can you possibly represent them?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that it really takes... I hear a lot of people, so I feel like everyone's campaign messaging this time around is kind of the same, right? Affordability for the working people, either America First or I don't really know the other messagings.
Well, I'll give you my 5. You want to know my 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so bold governance, right? So that includes affordability, actually passing laws for the district, bringing congressionally funded projects for fixing our roads and actually creating industrial wastewater treatment plants, like things that actually matter in critical infrastructure. Number 2 is American energy independence. I want to override the RIN numbers. I want to override a lot of these insane environmental regulations that do not help the environment. They only just destroy the local economy because I work in this economy, so I know how that works.
So like renewable energy?
Renewable energy is good to an extent, but I will tell you the renewable energy policies in the state do not work. And if you don't believe me, we just had a 5-day power outage and people had solar panels on their house. And you know what they did? They froze and their medical equipment didn't work. So please keep telling me about how this is going to fix Colorado. And then when Excel Energy also tells you, you can put solar panels on your house and we're not going to give you a rebate over it. And then we're still going to shut the grid down and then you're still screwed. What are you going to do? It's not. I just sat in the PUC Public Utilities Commission meeting the other day at the state capitol and it was asinine. You know, these people, you're putting so much reliance on technology that it's good supplementation. Like, I think, for example, if we build another Amazon warehouse or something like that, I think it should be mandated that the entire roof is covered in solar panels to supplement and reduce the load on the grid, right? But we shouldn't take 50 acres of farmland to the right of it and destroy that land, right? You integrate. Like, it's called, microgrid systems. That's what I got my master's in, right, is global energy management. So we can integrate renewables into common sense solutions, but the only way to keep the state running is to natural gas and oil production and everything else. We have the 4th largest reserves in the United States, and we don't use it. And you could use that to pay off everything in this state and provide people health care and all these things. Like, we want to take away Tabor. We want to do all these things. We want to increase your taxes and your mill levies. Well, why don't we just produce more money? Yeah. Why would I keep charging you more taxes if we have the monies right here? And all those jobs are hundreds of thousands of dollars a year jobs.
Yeah.
And we chase it all out of the state. It's not bad. And I can tell you this because I work in the environmental department. I've done drilling and fracking for a very long time. And I will tell you, we have the best technology in the world to do it. And the guys take so much pride in what they do, right? And to chase those jobs out of the state, you're destroying it. So that's like number 2 is American energy independence, right? Number 3, American agriculture. We lost 58,000 head of cattle in Weld County, mostly being stolen by cartels and cattle rustlers. That's millions of dollars of family ranching and food security that we don't have anymore. And nobody cares. So now JBS is owned by a foreign company, is importing foreign beef, and now the local rancher can't sell to his local neighbor because there's all these insane laws. Like, I want to pass the Prime Act, right? And I want to pass mandatory country origin of labeling. So American beef producers, which you have the best beef in the world, can actually sell within the state and provide that local security of farm-grown healthy food, right? Number 4 is veterans. I need to take care of my veterans. We have 35,000 in District 8. Gabe Evans doesn't care. You know why? Because I'm a veteran, and I went to him with veteran issues, and he just blew me off like it didn't even exist. And I'm still serving. Like I said, I'm still a captain in the Army, right? And then number 5 is ultimate transparency. I have a past with the Air Force Academy. People can Google me. I took these people down. They tried to slander and libel me all throughout everything else. And you want to know what? I'm still here. Mm-hmm. And the issue is that our representatives are not transparent. If you call my office, if you send me a letter, you're going to get a response back, right? If it's something that I can affect on the federal side, yes. Can I fix the fact that your neighbor stole your hay? No. Call the local police department, right? But what I can do is that When you call me, you're going to get a response. I also don't want to live in D.C. I'll go there for my mandatory votes throughout the week, but I want to be an airline pilot. I want to fly back every week to my 12-acre farm. I want to take care of what I have to take care of, and I want to meet with my constituents on a regular basis, not these town halls where they have cardboard cutouts of people because they don't show up. That's never going to happen with me. I will always show up for my constituents because you elected me, and you better hold me accountable. And if I don't do my job, you fire me and you hire somebody else.
Yes. You said you wouldn't not talk about anything, so just to really ask you to wrap things up, impeachment. And we talked about Epstein files. If it did come down to you getting elected and you had to vote to impeach the president over his mention and involvement with Epstein, would you do
If
that?
there's physical evidence that he actually raped and sexually assaulted children, yes.
And is court documents enough physical evidence for you?
No, there has to be actual evidence. 'Cause I will tell you, somebody who's been through the federal court system, that most of those judges need to be fired too because most of them are liars. Okay? They are very politically influenced figures. And I've dealt with the 10th District Court and the 10th District Court of Appeals here when I sued the Air Force Academy. Right? They tried to come out and said I was a pedophile in open court when none of that is true.
But I don't think anyone has court documents describing certain acts. I'm referring to the most new documents.
Yeah, no.
Right?
If there's physical evidence, Donald Trump did XYZ, or any of these other high level areas. Like look at all the people on the list that's come out recently. Whether that's from
evidence that's not victims' word.
In terms of what, like DNA evidence?
Like, is that what you're looking
for? Like pictures? Like I need evidence because there's another thing. Did you actually listen to the Sean Ryan show where they interviewed Hunter Biden?
Not all of it.
You should listen to it because it completely changed my opinion on the man. Right? Because I saw how he was dragged through court. They had all this evidence manufactured against him with the Hunter Biden laptop and all this other stuff. And then you actually listen to the truth about what happened, but they manufactured that hard drive in Malaysia with Steve Bannon. So it wasn't accurate. Right? But the entire election was determined on what people thought was accurate based upon the Hunter Biden laptop. Right? So I will tell you, because I've worked with the federal government for so long and I've seen how this court system works and how politically biased they are, the one thing we're going to do is we need to fire everybody. Please elect new people. Whether you don't want to elect me, which you should, because I'm the only one that's actually going to do their job, that I promise, but you need to fire everybody, right? But I will tell you is that not everything that you see on the news is accurate.
Right.
Just like we discussed before. And if there's hardcore evidence that people should be perp walked and handcuffed in front of our citizens, then you should do that. Right? But I also understand that some people are falsely convicted. We have people on death row that shouldn't be there. Right? We have to take the emotion out of this argument and go on actual facts and not just stories, not just hearsay, not one or two sentences on 3 pieces of paper. Like, I need to be able to corroborate everything. If I'm going to convict somebody and put them in prison for life, then I want to make sure I'm making that right decision.
But what about, so this is impeach someone just for the involvement and even just have, your name's not in the Epstein files, is it?
No.
Right? Because why in the hell would it be, right?
Right.
Because why would
Well, so is Jay-Z and Beyonce.
I'm not defending anybody.
No, I'm not defending anybody either.
The elites are the elites that have nothing to do with them. They don't make money like I do. They don't work like I do. They don't do anything like I do. They don't go to the store like I do. They don't. We're different. So when it comes to talking about not convicting, but just impeaching because of the stuff that we are seeing being given to us by Trump's.
So let's talk about this. One, I have not seen enough evidence to actually impeach the president of the United States other than an emotional argument, right? Okay. 2, let's say we do this. So let's say everybody impeaches the president of the United States. Is anything getting done in the next 2 years for you? No, because what we're going to do is every bill, every congressionally funded project, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security funding, our defense, everything else is going to get put off to the wayside, and these people are going to distract the American public, and for another 2 years, we suffer. Because they're so busy fighting over whatever they think is right, they're going to spend all this time wasting on the President of the United States, working up to the 2028 election, and then we start this whole cycle over again. And that's what I'm trying to end in Washington, is the theatric circus.
Right.
Like, nothing gets done if we just waste all of our time impeaching this or James Comey this or Hunter Biden this or Donald Trump this. Are you ever going to meet these people? No, you're not. I mean, to be fair, I've been to Donald Trump's house 5 times.
What?
Yeah, I've been to Mar-a-Lago. Well, because I work with other candidates, and when I was working for veteran issues, like you need to find supporters and senators and congressmen that are going to support your bills, right? And this is before I decided to run for politics, right? This is just interacting with people that pass the bills. You have to meet and talk with these people to pass bills, right? And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm going to be honest, I don't care about what happens in D.C. I don't care about what happens in Ukraine. I don't care about what happens in Greenland or Venezuela. I care about District 8. I care about fixing our jobs and making sure that everyone can have health care and everyone can go home with a paycheck and that we're not suffering in child human trafficking up Highway 85. That's my focus. You know what? When I fix District 8 and I can fix all these issues, if you guys want to waste all your taxpayer dollars and time fighting all the circus things of countries you'll never go to and people you'll never meet, let me know. Yeah. But in the meantime, this is the problem. We're so focused on big issues that will never affect you that you're not taking care of your neighbor.
I guess the Epstein files is hard to say that it wouldn't affect us, right? Because globally, if our country is to be like seen or to be perceived as having a leader that was involved in these like heinous acts or even connected to somebody who was involved in these heinous acts, I guess it's hard to like
Okay, so let's bring it back to District 8. Is there anyone in District 8 that was on the Epstein list or was a victim of somebody on the Epstein list?
No, but
I don't know. There might be.
Yeah,
like I have no idea.
True. We don't.
Then I would take that personally and start fighting for that person, just like I still fight for cadets at the Air Force Academy who were raped and sexually assaulted.
So this one you just don't take it personally. So that's kind of why.
I don't take it personally. It's like we can just look. Everyone can go to jail. Great, yeah. Send everybody to jail. Hooray! But at the end of the day, are our roads getting paved?
Right.
Are your taxes getting lowered? Right? Can you afford food and can you afford a house? Yeah. Do you really want me to waste my time as your congressman fighting a bunch of bureaucrats and political elites when nothing in District 8 has been getting fixed? Tell me, as a possible future constituent, do you want me to waste all of my time as an elected official fighting on things you'll never deal with, or do you want me to pave the roads?
Wasn't that whole dwindled down or dribbled down theory or economics?
Trickle down economics from Reagan.
There we go. Yep, see, you knew. And I think that if we look at that, we kind of have to look at the top, right? And if the top isn't trickling anything down, then I would want you to focus on the top.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't necessarily work trickle-down economics. What matters is the base. It's the pyramid that holds up the structure, right?
Right, but if corporations are like these, like getting, like having it easier than citizens in CD8,
well, if
and
you're
they
chasing,
don't really know that.
But we've chased out 5 major corporations in oil and gas drilling in CD8, and now people don't have jobs, and we're in over $1 billion worth of debt because of that. So that there's a flip aspect to that, right? Okay. Well, these companies need to pay more in taxes. Well, we already tax them at 38%.
You just do that, and then they'll just leave to somewhere that doesn't do that to them.
Correct. Yeah. So because we made this place so unfavorable for those businesses to operate, they sold and left, and now we've lost over 150,000 jobs because of it, right? So you could say corporate entities are super bad, but if they're providing 150,000 jobs that are 6-figure-a-year jobs, like these are not low-paying jobs, right? And then they spend their money and they rent hotels and they do all those other things, right? Like, so corporations need to make money and maintain profitability in order to maintain that job structure. If it becomes unprofitable for them, they're going to leave and go somewhere else that's more favorable. Why are we chasing out all of these assets into this state? Or just our district specifically, right? We bring that stuff back. People are happier, healthier. Businesses are thriving. People are opening up fire-retardant clothing stores, or opening up more restaurants, or opening up more hotels. And we can say they're big, bad, and evil, and everyone just give everyone their money. But if businesses aren't making money, then they're not going to provide for the community, and they're going to go somewhere that they can.
The part that I find big, bad, and evil is that they're like, oh, I have to like pay a like fair amount, or I have to like give you.
Well, I mean, they already pay like 38%.
Right, but how much do they make, right?
But that's a lot of money. Like, for example, I worked for Schlumberger.
The whole tax system is just a whole nother ball.
Well, I mean, but I worked for Schlumberger, right? Schlumberger was the largest oil and gas service company in the world, $78 billion company. Okay, we employed tens of thousands of people in this state. And then when Joe Biden got elected and we lost all the drilling rigs, they sold every North American asset off in Colorado and left. So, yeah, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, and they're super evil. Well, now none of us have jobs, and everyone's foreclosing on their house in CD8.
I think it's just because of that priority of, like, money. But money does make, like, the world go round, right? So
we're a capitalist society. Communism doesn't work.
Exactly.
It doesn't work.
I'm losing money. I'm leaving. I don't care who I screw. If it's tens of thousands of workers, it's fine. I'm a corporation.
But if you
That's what I don't get over.
Right. But that makes sense. If they're not making money,
it makes sense.
Then they're going to leave.
It's just kind of like.
Why do you think Elon Musk moved SpaceX to Texas? Yeah. Right? They were literally over-regulating him so much and costing him billions of dollars that they couldn't do the job, so they moved to Texas, literally created their own city. And now they're thriving, and they run 80% of the defense contracts in the United States for space launch, right? And all those people have jobs and are making a crap ton of money. And California lost all that, and they're in way more debt than Colorado is, right? So that's a part of capitalism people don't want to talk about, right? Is that, yes, I'm sorry, corporations need to make money, and they need to maintain profitability to stay in your community. Look what happened to the auto industry, right, in Detroit.
Yeah.
Look what happened to the steel mill workers in Pennsylvania. Same thing. Once they start losing profitability and all this stuff gets starting sold off to China, or we start integrating things overseas, then it's gone. My dad in New Jersey worked in the embroidery business in Moonachie, New Jersey, the embroidery capital of the world throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? Great paying jobs. My dad, had a company car when I was a kid, everything else. And then the company left and they sold everything to China, and everyone lost their job. And now none of that even exists in New Jersey anymore. It's like a museum piece now. And that's sad. So people have to understand, you could tax corporations at 100%. Go ahead. They're not gonna stay.
They're just gonna leave.
If you want to start a business, do you want to give away all your money, or do you want to maintain some profitability because of your entrepreneurship of starting a business?
Yeah, I would want to maintain money.
Right. So you just answered your own question for you.
But the thing is, I would never make that much money, right? Because I would,
How do you know?
Because I can't, because of the thing, I can't be oh, I don't care who I screw over as long as I'm making money.
But you're not necessarily screwing people over. Who are you screwing over?
If you make them lose their job, right? Because I don't want to lose money. I'm going to make you not be able to make money this way. That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but that's business.
I know. I'm not with it. I don't like business.
But then how can the United States maintain its entrance on the global world stage if we don't have that entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
If we don't have that ingenuity? If we don't have those things, our country doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Then we just turn into every other socialist country. I already have seen what is happening to overseas people when they live on a socialist system that barely provides what you need, that you can barely pay rent and afford food because they want to wealth distribute everything throughout the country. It doesn't work, and these are our closest allies. This is the UK. Mm-hmm. You can't get any more close of an ally than that, right? And they're completely losing their entire country. And that stuff's going to come here if we don't stop it, right? And I'm not saying everything in capitalism is good, right? There's bad parts to it. But I will tell you, it is the only reason why you and I can sit on this podcast and talk on this, right, the way we are.
Yeah.
Is because of the way our country runs, right? But the problem is if we keep idolizing these insurgent groups in the United States and overthrowing everything and burning everything down to the ground all the time, but then we don't change the leaders that are running the country, this is why I'm running. Right.
That's the thing. I hear everyone always complaining about that, and that's why I wanted to speak to you, because I already knew we didn't align on a lot of things. I already knew that. Because
I think we're getting along just fine, though.
I think we're having a conversation, and
but
this
is what
just
you need to do.
proves to people that this is what you need to do and that it's possible.
It is
but
possible.
I think you're also a rare occasion, to be
Well,
honest.
but the thing is, I promise
you showed up.
Mm-hmm.
You actually were open to talk about everything, and you didn't belittle or
why would
insult
I do that?
me, because that's how my conversations a lot of the times go, because I'm open to talking to everybody, but a lot of times I get belittled, I get insulted, or I get asked, or just if they don't have an argument with facts like you do, which is why I appreciated your conversation so much, and they just if they don't have facts to back it up, they'll just call me dumb or say that's a dumb argument.
Well, that's exactly why our country's broken.
Exactly.
Right? Is I want to be your congressman, even though we may not. Look, are we going to agree on social issues? Probably not. I'm an unapologetic conservative Catholic. Good luck. I substitute teach at my local Catholic school in my spare time, right? But the thing is I genuinely care about you as a person. I genuinely care. I want you to have a future. I graduated from here in 2013, and I will tell you that Colorado's completely different. This entire campus is completely different than the last time I was here, right? But the thing is, I had a little bit more opportunity back then in 2013 than you do now. What is your major here now?
Broadcast journalism.
Right. So where do you want to go from here after you graduate?
I want to get a job.
And how much money do you think you're going to make right off the bat, right out of college?
Oh, nothing.
Right, nothing.
Yeah.
Right, you're going to make nothing. And where are you going to live? You're going to go to D.C. and afford a $5,000 a month apartment?
No, she's going to support me.
She's going to support me, right? But this is what I'm talking about, is that I need someone like you. I want to be in Congress, and I want you to be interviewing me every day on the Hill. But if you can't even afford to live your dream leaving here because we didn't elect the right people in Congress, then what are you doing? Right? So if you want to be a broadcast journalist and you want to be the next anchor on CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever this is, you're going to be making $30,000 a year for 5 years. And you're going to be on the struggle bus. You're going to be eating ramen noodles and ketchup packets for a long time.
Yeah,
okay?
Nothing different.
But the thing is, you also probably want to get married, and maybe you want to have children. Maybe you want to do these things, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. But the thing is, if you don't get people like me into Congress now, and I can help start changing that system, so in a couple years, then you can flourish and prosper from this capitalistic society we live in, and you can actually start engaging and talking to regular members of Congress. Because imagine, you could talk to me every day. This would be great. Yeah. But I promise you, 90% of the people you talk to in Congress are absolute morons. They are not intelligent people. We have a chance right now in this election. CD8 is the most important congressional district in the United States right now. And if you and everyone else in this campus, whoever listens to this podcast, if you want to change things, you have to elect me. Because I'm going to get in, and then all my friends are going to come behind me in 2028, and they're like, oh my God, DeRito actually survived. He didn't get assassinated. He actually made it into the system. And then I get in, and then we start primarying everybody. And I'm not talking about just at the federal congressional level. I'm talking state representatives. I'm talking GOP, DNC leaders. I want to give people the courage to command and show that you can run for office as a nobody. Because I am a nobody. I am nobody special. I'm a blue-collar worker that's in a union that happens to be part of the Republican Party. But I want to be able to raise a family. I want to be able to afford a house. I want those things for you too. We're never going to change a generation above us. They did the damage to us. But there's no reason that we have to perpetuate that damage. We can change it, but we have to have the courage to run. And if I'm successful in this election, that's my promise, right? And I'm going to fail a million times. I have a million good ideas, and probably like 9,900 of them are going to fail, right? But the thing is, if I can start making that change and bringing people in like you, like who knows, maybe you'll run for state rep in a couple years too. You never know. But I want to bring that to the state, and that's why I'm running.
That was amazing. Again, this was Adam DeRito here running for CD8, Congressional District 8. That is a big part of Colorado. So I will just go ahead and put the map in here just so you know. If you fall in that area, you can always check on the Colorado State Secretary website exactly where you fall when it comes to congressional district, House district, all those fun things. And then, yeah, thanks again, Adam, for your time and being here. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think this just goes to show that you can have a meaningful conversation, or at least have a level-headed one with people. And
the only thing I have to say is, please, if you want to volunteer for my campaign, we're taking everybody that we can. Go to DeRito, FORCongress.com, and also throw me $5 because I need all the money I can get because I am not funded by these evil corporate super PACs.